And welcome to Two Gray Goatees and a Whistle. I'm your host, Coach Huddy, and today I'm joined by an incredible guest, Nicole Christian, head softball coach at Eastern Oregon University. Thanks, Nicole, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I brought you on because, I remember when you were playing at Eastern as a player and saw the success you had there. Then and then saw how you were coaching at Mac High later on at your high school. And then you got the coaching gig at Eastern here about 5 years ago or so. And it's seeing how you have developed your program and seeing the success you've had about who you are and advice you'd give out to young people. You ready for
Sounds
this?
good. For sure.
All right. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. How did sports become a part of your life at a young age?
My dad, he played baseball and JUCO, football, touched base in high school and those kind of things. And so I remember when he played slow pitch in Milton Freewater, he would bring me down to the field and put me out there shagging balls and throwing balls back in. And so I think it just kind of started from there. And, they threw me in soccer when I was younger, basketball when I was younger. He coached me in basketball. I honestly played baseball first. And so I really didn't touch into softball until going into, I think, high school. Maybe that 8th grade year was my first year of softball. I pitched for the boys baseball team and played baseball, and then they kind of was like, hey, you're about to go into high school. Do you want to make that transition? And so my last summer, before I went into high school, I was doing baseball and softball. And so kind of that's where that journey took place, was all because of my dad and getting involved with something that he was passionate about.
That's very unique because there are cases I've heard where, they don't offer softball, but there's baseball around. And so for women to get into, that's the only choice they have. But being that you've got to play both sports, one thing I do notice is softball is faster. What are some differences you were noticing from playing softball and baseball, and what were things that were similar?
I think for me, it was a while ago, but I know when I made those transitions, they always tried to change my swing. When I first started baseball, they put me out in right field, and then slowly they brought me in kind of basically off my arm, and then I started pitching for the guys. And then softball, I played short and pitched as well. I just think the game's evolved so much for softball from when it first started out, when I first started playing. The speed of it's quicker, everything. Pitching and hitting, I think the philosophy for the hitting part's very similar in regards to, I haven't really changed much in philosophy, obviously changing techniques a little bit coaching now at this level. Just getting to that contact point's been a huge thing, and it's kind of very similar. I know everybody talks about one swings this way, one swings that way. Honestly, for me, I'm not that cookie cutter coach when it comes to hitting and those kind of things. And so we work with what our athletes come in with and just try to tweak here and there. So pace by far is much faster in softball. And I think a lot of people that have grown to love the game of softball really enjoy that pace and how quick it is.
Yeah, and I can speak for that. I didn't know much about softball until I had a kid, and then my daughter was playing softball and kind of learned along the way how it went. And then, when she got into middle school, high school, watching and seeing how that progressed through there. And it is enjoyable. I enjoy watching it actually, honestly, more than baseball, just because of the fast pace of the game and stuff like that. So that aspect, that's one thing about softball I like, is that fast pace and how everything is so condensed, and just your reaction time has to be so much quicker. It's amazing how some of these people, they can get a ball out of their glove in the first base or whatever in a matter of a second or two, versus baseball, you have a longer distance, but it seems like your reaction times doesn't have to be as fast.
Yeah, for sure. The
So
corners are
going
hot. I
through,
think
yeah.
nowadays.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's
About
definitely
the
its reaction on a lot of the aspects of the game with how small our field is.
Yeah, definitely, especially on the corners. Yeah. Um, and one thing I did notice, like even watching some of the Division I schools over here around Boise State, stuff like that, is how close the third baseman gets to home plate now, especially when you got slap hitters and stuff like that. It's crazy how the courage, because your reaction time, if something comes off hot off that bat, watching the third baseman, I'm just like, holy crap, there's no way I could get that close and have that ball. It's amazing, and it's just that part of the game, especially with slap hitting coming in and stuff like that, how much it's used. Because I
Yeah,
remember
it's changed
a long time
definitely.
ago, yeah, it wasn't used that much.
I think we had one
Let's
here
talk a
at
little bit
Eastern.
about. Go ahead.
No, I
Yeah,
said I was gonna say
yeah.
when
I
I
think you.
played, we only had really the one slapper, one or two slappers. That wasn't as common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do remember. Was it Simon Fraser? Some of you guys played, weren't they a quick team and they had a lot of slappers or something like that? I
Yes,
don't know.
for sure.
It seems like I remember one game
Yep,
you, when
you're
you
right.
guys were in your playoff runs. They had a there there that was a quick team. Um, Talking about your journey in high school to college, um, what made you choose Eastern, or in particular, what was your recruiting experience like at the end of your high school career, getting ready for college?
I honestly had more offers, I think just because of the time of softball still kind of new. I had more offers to play basketball, a lot of JUCO routes to play basketball, but the big thing is my passion was softball. And so being home, Eastern, I think had only had it a couple years, and knowing family is really important to me. And so at that time, having my mom, my grandparents right there in my backyard was really key for why I chose Eastern. It was enough time away from good distance from Milton Freewater that if I needed to come home, I could go home, but I still had my own life and was able to, experience college life here at Eastern. And so that was one of the big things. And it's funny because my mom found my recruiting packet that Angie made for me. And it was like highlights how it has changed so much, thinking about how recruiting is going to where it's like this little packet and you read through. And she put together, her and probably Coach Gear put together some newspaper articles on Eastern, and then had some of me when I was a player. And that's what they gave me for, getting me to Eastern. And so I still have it, which is crazy. It's at my parents' house. But yeah, that was the big force behind choosing Eastern. I loved the location. The campus was beautiful. It was away from home, but my family could watch me every weekend, and that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, and that's to me that's important. I mean, I think a lot of times I think a lot of people they get caught up in the glamour of going to a bigger school, but I think when they get there, sometimes that reality hits them that they're that far away from home sometimes. And I think and maybe you could probably elaborate on this as a coach when you have a player that's not necessarily close at home, and how do you handle players like that? I guess when you have somebody that might be 3 or 4 states over that's playing for you. I mean, how do you help those kids when they do get homesick and stuff like that as a coach?
I think for us, we really have embraced of just having some of those tough conversations with our athletes. It's fall's tough. We brought in 15 new players this year and had 13 returners. And so just kind of understanding like it's not easy, and not just kind of brushing it under the rug, but having those conversations with those new girls that are 8 freshmen, the rest were all JUCO transfers, a D1 transfer. And so it's just those conversations of, it's okay to miss home. It's okay to like come in and have those conversations like you're struggling mentally. It is tough. You've got practice, you've got classes where, a lot of these high school, like these kids never really had to turn in homework, and now they're getting here and they're like, oh my gosh, what? I've got to turn in assignments and I can't turn it in late. And so just those adjustments, it's hard, but knowing that they're not alone in that whole experience at first, and knowing that they've got a support system in our coaching staff and just in the school in general is amazing in regards to our professors and other coaches on staff. We're all, I mean, more than half are alumni, so we get it. And so trying to just embrace that moment and help them through those things and allow them, this year we did have a weekend or two that we had off, and allow them to go home and see their mom and dad and or family on one of those weekends, where we get here and I don't know, 4 weeks and it's 16 weeks straight of softball where you don't get a break. And it'd be just kind of being understanding for those athletes and allowing them to grow through those hard times.
And that's and I like, when again, and it's one thing that I always try to bring out is the things that people don't understand about coaching. It's not just what they see on the field; it's everything behind closed doors that a lot of people don't see. And it's that counseling, it's that mentoring, and everything else that comes with the job that I think sometimes a lot of people don't understand that goes with this, and all the extra time that goes into preparing your season as a player. I mean, I think being able to play ball like this, I think it helps you understand what it is to be a college student, what it is to be a student athlete. How did helping you playing at the college level like this prepare you to be a coach to where you're at now?
I think, we did play at a high level, and I think that was like one of my main drives coming back is that the last time when I left Eastern, when we all graduated, we were fourth in the nation and fifth in the nation, and we were a very successful program. And one of the best, I think one of the most successful team programs at Eastern for a while. So then it's one of those things to where you watch from afar and kind of watch what your college has done in the past since you left. And that was just one of those things. So where I felt like everybody, like as a coach, your job, like you want to win. Like no one wants to come into a program and lose. I mean, let's just be honest. We want to win games and we want to be successful. All coaches do. And so when I got here, we were kind of just in that middle, okay with being in the middle of the pack. And I've never been that type of athlete. I've never been that, playing for Angie. She has fire. She's the GOAT. And not just basketball, but in softball. And she kind of instills that in you, as a coach, when you play for her, you have that fire. And it's not okay, like I compete in everything I do, whether, like we're competing in our campus and we want to be successful. And so it's just like bringing that competitive drive to our program was a big switch that I needed to bring back to Eastern when I got here, and recruiting those kids that want to be a number one. They want to succeed. They're not okay with being in the middle of the pack. And so it took me a little bit. We dealt with my first year with COVID and trying to work through those adversities in the first couple years, and then getting athletes in that fit the culture. And it was, I think, top athletes that probably could have went on at D1 and D2 schools chose Eastern and chose us. And so those little things made huge adjustments for us, and being able to transition from being that college athlete and taking that passion and competitiveness and then instilling it in our program for those girls to be like, hey, we can compete at this level and believe that we can, was probably the big change for us.
So I do want to bring up to people. So when she says Angie, she's talking about Angie Weisenfluh, and Coach Weisenfluh is the GOAT. She is one of the most successful coaches in basketball in not just school history, but she's one of the top in the nation in her winning. And at the time, she was also the softball coach for you and that team that took fourth and fifth in the nation. So I can't imagine how she wouldn't write it off on you because of her work ethic and how she coaches. So I'm glad you brought her up because I think anybody who's ever been around her or have listened to her at clinics, which I've got to do, it's amazing because, she's got the demeanor, she's got it, and there's a reason why she has found success. So looking at your season, how I've seen your success, like you said, the COVID year sucked. I can say that because that was my daughter's senior year and that screwed everything up. And, we understand that the struggle with that. And then, but you've done a great job over the past few years. You're finding success, and now, you're getting nationally recognized as one of the top programs out there right now. So kudos to you and your coaching staff. I know some of the coaches you got in there. One of them was like a teacher from Lynn. Casado, Lynn was one of my teachers in high school, and then Woody is, I remember him at Union. He went to school with some of my family. So the coaching staff you have, and you got your dad on your staff too, right?
Yep, I sure do.
I mean, you got a lot. What's great is that when you have that type of help around you, built around you, definitely, I'm sure it helps lighten the load a little bit, at least what you have to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you get older and you go through that coaching carousel of whether you move or just coaching changes, I think you, I mean, there's not enough words to describe success. It is in your assistant's hands. And, going and just growing as a coach myself and trying to find myself as, through the years, I will always just be thankful for the coaching staffs that I've been a part of, whether it was at high school and we, had those runs for state titles. Just having that backbone and assistance to hear. I've got Lynn, I've got Woody, I've got Terry, I've got Madison, my dad, and it's been last year, I think, was really with all those hands on deck that I could actually kind of step back from hitting fungos and doing those things and do a lot more of the coaching and instruction. And so it was just kind of, a, you know, just relax, like, oh my gosh, I get to see a lot more, but it was because of my assistants and all that work that they put in behind the scenes with me. And it's, you only can't take credit for just our wins and that stuff. It truly is a coaching staff that has made us as great as we are.
Yeah, and it's just it's amazing how the people you got around you, and some of them that I know, and it's definitely would make your job a lot easier. So when we talk about values that come with coaching or anything like that, what values matter the most to you beyond the wins and losses? What are things that you hold a lot of value?
I think just for us is making that positive impact in athletes. My first few years, I mean, I grew as a coach as well. The girls that probably played for me those first 2 or 3 years, um, you know, de- definitely doesn't have the same coach that these athletes have now, just because I had to find my own path. And I think it takes a little bit going through that college level, adjusting, whether it's JUCO, high school, and I've got that consistency now. And I think for values, we want great athletes, we want athletic kids, but most importantly, we want good humans. We want, kids that want to be a positive impact player. We want to, make differences in the classroom and in our community. And we look for those kids. We do have a lot of teachers. We like have a great amount of just great humans on our program, and that's kind of been that culture change. When we first started, Woody and I kind of joke about it. We were so worried about winning, because we didn't want to lose our job, that we just didn't get the right kids and the right fit when we recruited. They were great athletes, but that was it. Like it just kind of tore our team apart. And so we had to reevaluate. I'm pretty sure we both said, I know we can find better athletes and better humans that are going to create the culture we want. And I think that's been the best part, is that we have been able to do that. We've been able to find some great athletes and kids that do the clinics, do the extra things for the community, treat their parents right, just those kind of little details when we're recruiting and watching and how they speak to their parents. And because we always say when we recruit a kid, we recruit their family. And so that's been a big change from my first couple years to now what we look at.
And I can say that, talking with other people who've coached at college level and stuff like that, that's the number one thing they're looking at. And I think letting parents know this and let the players know this, anybody that's potentially wants to go play at a school, it's something I tell them because I coach at middle school and high school. That's one thing I tell kids. And, you know, if you're looking up at the stands and your possible coach that's recruiting you, they're looking in the stands too. And they're seeing not just how you're reacting, but how your parents are, because, you could be the greatest athlete in the world, but if the parents are I know a lot of times that will make or break whether you bring somebody or want somebody on your team. I know that. So what are some things you do look at as you're recruiting? I mean, obviously we just touched on parents, that becomes a factor, but what are other things you're looking for when you're looking for an athlete? You talked about character, which I think is huge. What are some other things outside of whether they can hit a ball or throw a ball? What are some of the other things you're looking at maybe that maybe other people aren't?
I think for us, we have to find that right fit. I mean, LeGrand, we don't have the Ulta mall people, those kind of things. And we really have to recruit those kids that love the outdoors, that can create things to do. We've got Mount Emily with a ton of hiking trails, fishing trails, hunters. Those are the athletes that we have to look at. I mean, when I recruit a kid, my goal isn't for her to be here for 1 year and then go transfer. Like we're trying to build foundation kids. We want here for 4 years, get your education, and then go do great things outside of softball once you graduate. And so those are just some of those things that we look for. We did, we dove a little deeper into these athletes now of what they like to do in the off season and those kind of things because we want them to come here and stay. And we want them to be happy. We don't want them, unhappy athletes cause issues. And so those are some of the things with the parents, with athletic ability, and that's just those little things that we enjoy. And we like kids that could have a conversation. And unfortunately, there for a while, those first 2 or 3 years, kids didn't know to have face-to-face conversations with adults. They were so stuck in their rooms and computers because of COVID. And we're slowly getting athletes that are now more willing to come up and approach us as coaches, which has been huge. Because I expect us to be able to have a relationship outside of just softball. You should be able to come in my office and just talk and how's your day? How's things going? And be able to communicate. And I think that was another big thing we looked at recruiting these kids was, can they have a conversation? Are they engaged with us? Or did mom and dad just tell them, hey, there's a coach, go talk to him kind of thing? We want them to really do their research on Eastern. And that's one of the questions when they get here on campus tours, like why Eastern? Why did you choose to make us one of your schools you visited?
And I can tell you, I mean, I know you got some players from Idaho, but you need to come down Magic Valley way. There's some talent here I think you could pull from that have that mentality. I think it would benefit. Just throw a little nugget out there. Right? So
Yeah, we
let's
for
talk about the
sure we
state.
need to get that way.
Yeah, and I can tell you, there's because I was on the coaching staff for a few years around here, and there's some good softball here. I can tell you, just in our district, where usually our district sends, or they're usually the ones playing in the state championship. Usually one of our schools, so there's some good talent around here. So, and just saying, I mean, if you're looking, I can throw some names at your way later on or something like that,
Yeah,
or at least I have connections to some coaches, so I can at least get you in contact with them. Let's talk
for
about the
sure.
state of softball in general. So this is not just softball. This is something that happens in basketball and everything else. Travel ball. Okay. That is, how has travel ball changed how you recruit? Is how much do you place value in players that play travel ball versus the ones that just play high school? Or, is it better or worse? How do you approach players that do that?
I think for us, recruiting purpose wise, it's so hard for us to see high school players because it's our season and I'm on the road February to June if we're doing things correctly. And so my recruiting time period is based off of June to August. September, we start back up in September. And so, unfortunately, what I get to see, if it's not any high school games kind of close, I have to go find them during travel ball. And then with travel ball, we also have so many social media platforms that they send us emails and they come to our camps. That's a big thing for us is to be able to see them. And so I honestly, most of my girls I watch during summer is when I get to see them. There might be one or two girls that only play high school ball, but summer ball pretty much has taken over in regards to where we get our recruiting done at. And that's kind of where we're at in the state of softball in regards to for at least us. And when I'm out, I see other coaches in my conference. I see D2 coaches and I see D1 coaches. And so that's kind of, I think, where we're at right now in regards to that recruiting.
What is something that young athletes and parents misunderstand about the recruiting process? What is something that some assumptions they come in with that maybe are a little distorted or not exactly how everything goes when they're getting recruited?
Well, gosh, I think there's just right now we've got 3 levels, right? We've got D1, D2. Everybody's hopes and dreams is to play that D1 level. I don't know if everybody's realistic in regards to, these D1 coaches are looking at 2030 grads and 2031 grads right now. They're not looking at a 26 and a 27, and maybe not even looking at 28s. They're probably done. And so, like, I see, a lot of like athletes for the most part still looking for that D1 option and you're a senior. And that's one of those, like, we kind of missed your window of opportunity for most D1 schools. They've moved on from 26s 2 years ago. And I think for us, if informing those parents, like, you've got to start early. I get emails, I've got tabs like 26, 27, 28, 29, and I'm getting now emails from grad year of 2030. So, just getting that process out of starting earlier. I've got friends that their sons are in a different, they're seniors this year in football. And I'm like, you're just now starting? Like, why didn't you talk to me? I could have helped you, like, get this process going sooner. Like, these parents and athletes realize, they're just waiting a little too long. Uh, and not saying that they won't get found. It's just a little bit easier if you start sending out emails and getting videos put out to coaches by your sophomore year.
Okay. And I think that's good advice. And I kind of found that out. Me and the people I was coaching with, we went to Boise State for some winter ball stuff. They were doing some stuff there, or excuse me, fall ball stuff, and they were having some practices and stuff like that. And they had a little coaching clinic, and we got to go and watch Boise State practice. And I was talking to one of the coaches, and at the time, I had a cousin that's playing, JUCO ball, and I just kind of just mentioned, like, what's the chances of, like, somebody from JUCO? They're like, we're already talking to kids that are not even hit high school or just hitting high school, and it kind of took me back a little bit, because when I look at that, I kind of look at, well, these kids are still developing, like, physically, and that these kids are going to be ready. It's crazy, because I know this is in how you said it is exactly how it goes on, but Um, I, to me, I'm like, yeah, I can see they have that potential, but I'm also going, you know, development happens, and is that going to affect how they play sometimes? And so I don't know how much that plays a fact. Does it really play that much of a factor? Is it really not going to be that much change if they're getting recruited their eighth, ninth grade year? How is that really?
I know.
Is
I
it
don't get
really
how they can
that
be
crucial
looking
to
at.
coaches?
I know. For me, it's not. I'm not out recruiting. We just had a 26 on campus today. I love JUCO players. We have JUCO scholarships to offer on top of athletic scholarships. And so we do usually have a heavy JUCO squad that comes into Eastern. And that was like that when I played. G had some great JUCO transfers from I think it was Clackamas and Mount Hood at the time that joined us our junior year. And that's kind of when we had that successful run my junior senior year. And so I don't know. I'm looking at 14 and 13, and I'm like, I just think about how much growing up and maturity these young girls have to do at that age, and I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not a D1 coach though, and I understand it's one of those things where you have to see that talent in order to get them, at the radar and on your radar and get them to your school. And so it's definitely different per level. I think we're, most of my fellow coaches and at NAI right now are on to 27s and 28s. Everybody's pretty much done with their 26s, maybe hit or miss one or two players. JUCOs, I've got a lot of friends at that JUCO route, and they're still trying to fill their 26s. um,
Yeah, that's the next
so
question.
for
No, and that's great. That's a great transition. So let's go ahead and talk about the transfer portal and how is
Okay.
that affecting recruiting now. So yeah, let's go ahead, and that's a great transition right there. Keep going.
So for us, which is really weird, NAIA, we don't have that access to the portal. But if a kid goes into the portal, we can do our homework and research and reach out to them. I've been on the portal because I've had friends that are at D1 and whatnot, and allowed us to get in, and we have those kind of connections here and there. But looking at it, it's like, I mean, I looked this summer, maybe September, and there was 1,600 kids in there that don't have a home and that aren't playing, that were, like, went in the portal and is hoping to find a new place. So then those people transfer to new schools. I know with number restrictions in those schools, it's now affecting a lot of freshmen, like, that were looking to try to go to bigger schools, like, their roster numbers have changed. So now they no longer have a spot. So some of these freshmen that were looking or were told that they had a spot now. I mean, it's just been crazy. I I don't think the movement like football, like, like they're getting ready to play a bowl game and I'm in the portal. I don't feel like that's going on in softball. We haven't hit that level of movement, but we definitely have rules. Anybody in our conference, if you transfer per conference team, we don't have a portal for NAIA, but if you want to transfer one program to another, you have to sit a year. And that's with Cascade Conference. And so, luckily, I've had some key players that are from D1, D2, and it's just been more word of mouth that has transferred to us that wanted to move home and saw that we've been successful. But for easy daily access or every month access, it's hard for us to get into the portal, but I do know what it's like because I've taken a peek, and that's a lot of kids that don't have a place to call home just because they weren't happy where they were at and wanted to jump ship and see if there's somewhere better. And I think that's kind of been a miss. I mean, for example, I talked with the D2 coach this last weekend at a recruiting tournament, and she has access to it. So she's talking to these girls and like, oh yeah, well, we don't have, for example, we don't have a skybox. And she was complaining about that. And so the girl that's coaching was like, well, I don't either. It's just like they were listing off
Is
these
that
things that
really
they
that
weren't happy
important?
with. I know. That's what I was like. We have a tent, like we have a pop-up tent where we're at, like she was just like, maybe do some research if you're complaining about where you're at and trying to move, because she didn't have one. And it was just like the things that don't make them happy, or they think that maybe all the schools should have it, but we don't, like I don't have a budget where we don't have matching cleats. We're not sponsored by Eastern, like we don't have team
Yeah,
bats.
you're
We don't
not getting
have,
sponsors by Nike or something like that. So yeah,
yeah. And so
yeah,
it's just like those
seems
little
like
things
just
that portal has done a number on is they want to go in there and see what the next best thing. Well, like some of those things you had at your old school, you probably won't get at your new school. So it's been very interesting for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and I just, so, because when I look at the portal, it's at least in the NCAA, and this is more probably towards football and basketball because it seems like that's where a lot of this notices. I think a lot of times softball and baseball and some of the other sports, they really don't get as noticed much as the transfer portal. But it just seems like it's like the Wild Wild West, at least at the NCAA level, about all these players as, well, I don't, it didn't work out here, so I'm going somewhere else. So, players staying and developing and into their programs. I just know that coaches now, especially at that level, I'm trying just to retain players for 3 or 4 years. It seems like it's a monumental. I mean, it's a huge task just because now money's involved. So then that becomes a problem too. So it's interesting how you brought up when you are looking at some of these players that are in that transfer portal, and it's some of the stuff that they're looking for just seems very irrelevant. And I'm just like, sounds very like high maintenance. Like to me, that would be a red flag. Like, yeah,
I mean, for sure, there's definitely red flags when those things kind of pop up when you're looking at, recruiting and wanting to get these athletes in, and that's not the right fit. Like you definitely got to have a little bit of grit and some blue collar here at Eastern, and like tarp work and playing in 29-degree weather. And there's not a lot, we don't have NIL money, we don't have those options, and so those are all things that we have to think about when we're looking at getting transfers, where they're coming from.
yeah. All right, let's talk about something that I think a lot of people don't understand is that once you leave high school, you still have to fundraise. Fundraising is still a thing. I don't care what colleges you're at. One of my former students that's playing football over at Rocky Mountain, it's like they always get, his mom's always posting stuff for fundraisers. So let's talk about your fundraiser that you got coming up. It's going to be on Saturday, January 10th. And so let's talk about what this fundraiser helps with and what you got going on with the fundraiser and what are some things that people should be looking for and how they can get involved.
Yeah. So we started last year was our first year. We wanted to do kind of like nice prime rib dinner, little poker tournament, and then get some auction items together and try to just bring in family and some community support at the local restaurant, which is Bud Jackson's Tap and Eatery. And so He's been great. He basically closes down the restaurant side of his business, and allows the bar side to stay open, but allows us to all come in there. And this year we're doing prime rib or spaghetti, a little cheaper side for spaghetti dinner if someone wants to eat, a meal. They basically have servers and tabs with Bud Jackson's, and they pay through them for the food and the drink part. And then we have, between players and parents and community, friends, whatever, that has donated items. Our parents are amazing. And we've got baskets of, you name it. We've got Blazer tickets. We've got the new Fire, I think it's the Portland Fire, the women's WNBA team coming to Portland
Hmm.
tickets. And we got a donated oversized steelhead fishing trip for two, donated again. And then name it, items and gift cards and all that our people can bid on. And so basically, I mean, where we're at money wise, we now, with winning, we're getting asked to travel in the preseason to play teams. They want to come face us. They want us to come to their place where it's warm, and budget restraints. I mean, to fly my team out, it's $20,000. I don't have that. And so it's one of those things where we do a ton of fundraising. We rake leaves, just like I did when I played here. We're out in the community bagging up
Remember that?
leaves. We partnered with a little business here that does her own composting, Compost Chick. So we bag them, throw them out behind our dugout. She comes and loads them up and takes them to her property and uses it. So we've kind of partnered with her for that. And we get basically the month of November, when the leaves drop, is when we get to do that fundraiser. We do camps. That was a big one. We had the most I think it was June. We had 66 campers come out, which was a great turnout for us. And so that's another little fundraiser. But this one is one of the bigger ones for us, just with auction items. And then afterwards, Kyle Dodds is going to be running the poker side of it this year for us, which starts at 8 p.m. And honestly, you don't have to come and eat. You can come and bid on items, mingle with the coaching staff and the team, because they're all going to be there, or grab some good food and some drinks and still mingle. And same thing with poker. It's not mandatory. And so it's just kind of a get to know your Mounties, hang out with us. We're there, from 5 to 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then the girls head out. And we've got a lot of parents. I think right now we've got like 67, 65, 67 right in there, people coming for dinner. So that's a good turnout. And so if people want to come, they just got to reach out, email me, or my office phone number. I sent you the flyer. I think we try to post it on our social media as well. If they want to join, just shoot us a message. We just got to have a head count for the prime rib and spaghetti dinners. And I think we're trying to get that all wrapped up by Wednesday. But yeah, it was
Okay.
great last year, and we wanted to do it again.
That's great. And I can't do anything for you this year, but next year I have some connections and I might be able to get you either some swag or banana ball tickets if they
That'd be
happen to
awesome.
come back this way again next year. Yeah, because this year I am a member of the banana fan or their K club, so I guaranteed tickets up to a certain amount. I'll see what I can do for you to help you out next year. I can't help you this year. I'm sorry, but next
That's
year
okay.
I'll definitely try to do something to try to help the program. So,
That'd be
but
huge. Yeah, I
you
mean,
know, yeah,
we have a ton of people in Idaho. We've got quite a few players from Idaho and Washington, and so we looked at trying to get Boise football tickets, like anything that we can do to kind of cover all areas where people can go in and get tickets or events and stuff. So yeah, it's just one of those things of knowing connections and having those things to get those items donated is huge for us.
I might be able to do that, and I have a connection to a football player that I coach that I might not this year, but I'll see if I can talk to, maybe have some send something signed, or I don't know. I'll try to get something worked out for you to help you out. So
That'd be
that's
awesome.
great. Fundraiser again is happening Saturday, January 10th this year at Bud Jackson's there in LeGrand, Oregon. If you can make it, that's great. Anybody who's listening in LeGrand, I do have some listeners that listen. Well, and then I'll post stuff. I'll post stuff on social media. I'll have clips going out, and in the YouTube at the end of the episode, I'll have the flyer up too on that as well. So I got
Awesome.
a couple more things before we go. I got an optional rapid fire round I'm going to do to kind of close it out a little bit, and then we got to do our mascot of the week, which I think it will be kind of
Okay.
interesting. I think you might kind of like this one. So I'm going to
Okay.
do a little rapid question. I'm just going to spit out some questions. You tell me. You give me your thoughts. All right. So favorite softball drill.
2-ball hitting drill and field work.
Okay. One word to describe your coaching style.
Patient.
Best advice you have ever received.
Be patient, and your personal growth will take time to develop what type of coach you want to be. It won't happen overnight.
Love it. And last one, your go-to pump up song.
I'm terrible. I go to pump up. How about I just go station, like hip hop, news, R&B. Like gonna put that on
All right, that
Pandora,
works.
Apple, anything pop up, I'm good to go.
All right, that's good to hear. All right, so our last segment that I always do is I like it, is mascot of the week. And so what I do is I find an unusual mascot from places around the country, high schools. I've done here in Idaho, I've done the Maniacs from Orofino. I've done down in Yuma, the Criminals, Bend. I've done the Lava Bears. So I always look for unique mascot names and kind of find the history, if I can, about them. Our mascot of the week takes us to Little Rock, Arkansas, to the Arkansas School of Deaf and Hard Hearing. This school got its name from at least 1941. There wasn't anything I could really find other than that was the earliest that they could find for the name of this mascot. They are the Leopards. So they are the Idaho School of the Deaf Leopards. Pop culture. In 2016, the rock band Def Leppard famously visited the school. So it really happened. So Def Leppard, the musical rock group, stopped by there in Little Rock, Arkansas at the school and got a picture. And I actually saw the picture, had the whole band sitting there with one of their scoreboards showing them, that they were there and stuff like that. The
Oh
school
my
itself
God.
was founded in, yeah, isn't that crazy? So here in Gooding, Idaho, we have a state school. And actually, that's where my daughter works, a school for the deaf and blind. So I thought this was kind of cool that I found another state school and their mascot's the leopards, which I think is just amazing. The school itself it's been serving families for 175 years. So this school has been around for a long time. They have a strong ASL, first environment support. They have athletics in the area, which is great. They've done some major upgrades. A little bit different than where I'm at, but their campus is next to the blind school. That's part of the same. They're still part of the same thing, but the one here in Gooding is like right. They're mixed together. Other than the fact they take classes a little bit separate. But, anyways, so your mascot of the week is the Def Leopards of
That's
Little
awesome.
Rock, Arkansas. So
That is pretty
all right, I
awesome.
want to thank. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank Coach for showing up. I appreciate you taking your time. I know, especially you got practice starting up right now and it's going to get crazy busy for you, but I do appreciate you taking the time to come and listen or speak to me. And everybody, you guys take care. I appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.